Welcome to your conscious community with lifelong friends who are twinning an energy as holistic healers, psychic mediums, and life coaches. Our goal with the Soul Tribes is to normalize spirituality. I'm Amy Dascola.
And I'm Dara Jewett.
And we are the Soul Tribes. This week, we have a wonderful guest. Her name is Brookelin, and I'm going to just let her right in. Hi, Brookelin.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Good, good. Brookelin is a friend of Dara's, and Dara, go ahead, introduce Miss Brookelin.
Hi, Brookelin. Thank you so much for joining us. So you guys are in for such a treat. I was so privileged and blessed to have met Brookelin when I was living in San Diego, and she is such a beautiful, radiant soul. The moment I met her, my heart just exploded with rainbow love. She is such a divine being. She basically is a facilitator, instructor, and teacher for a countrywide in the US. It's called Pure Barre. And so what Pure Barre is basically like a fitness Pure Barre studio. So it's not quite like yoga, but it's utilizing physical activity to connect with your body in new kinds of ways. So basically, she specializes in teaching lifestyle practices that really help you to calm the chaos of daily activity, hustle and grind, and becoming present in your body, while of course strengthening your body and creating that movement and flow. But she definitely encompasses it to a much wider range and level than most instructors do, because she also utilizes in her own life and with her clients meditation and crystals and chakra cleansing and balancing, and really embodying that whole holistic living to really become just focused and so centered, not only in this moment, but just in the flow of life. And then allowing life to ebb and flow as it does, which kind of brings us into our modality today, which is really focused on grieving and what really happens after death, after we die. Unfortunately, our beautiful dear friend Brookelin has just recently lost her father. And so although we had talked a while ago, a couple months ago, through this painful process that she's been going through, just really, Amy and I have tried to give her as much support, and just watching her support her father and be there for her family. And we just really honor her for being here and sharing her story. And we just thought it would be a good time to really speak about grief and what that looks like for people. So we're going to switch things up a little bit, and we're going to let Amy today speak about this modality.
So also, Brookelin and I, we've all, the three of us have kind of connected through rainbow light, and we have a lot of connections with rainbows and things like that, and signs from spirit. And that was the interesting part. And then we started meeting again with Brookelin because she was going through the change, as Dara said, with her father, and grieving it and really working through it. And sadly, ironically, last Friday, I lost a very dear friend, one of my best friends, a lifelong friend for 20 plus years. And with my profession, it started, my DMs started filling up messages, text messages, asking me a lot of questions about death. So we had planned to have Brookelin on this week, and we just said, listen, I feel like it's in the cards, if you will, that we are to speak on this. So I just wanted to go through and kind of answer some questions that I've been getting. Now, remember, Darren and I were speaking before this saying, you know, everyone's interpretation can be very different. I'm just letting you know as a medium, this is my interpretation of death. So I'm just going to preface it with that. So take it as you will. One of the biggest questions I've been getting is what happens when we die? So I want you to think about if someone is like in a terminal illness and if we are witnessing the death process of a loved one, you may notice, and for me, this happened with my pop-pop, that your loved one may start even connecting to the other side before they die. They might start getting visitations from past loved ones. They might start hearing things and repeating those things to you. And you're kind of like, what are they talking about? Or what is this? But it really is their soul family from the other side coming through and saying, it's okay. It's time. It's time for you to cross over. So another thing that a lot of people wonder if it's true, if it's not, whatever, is people may start getting visitations once the loved one has passed, and they might start getting visitations in their dreams. They may start noticing signs. The signs could be music. It could be a certain number, maybe that you start noticing on the clock even. And one thing in particular is you can ask spirit to send you signs and say, like, you know, I know if you show me the clock, or if I'm drawn to the clock at 4:17 p.m., I know it's you. Like, you can literally plant those seeds. I'm not saying they will always happen, but you can plant them. Another thing I want you to think about is when we die, it's just a new realm of consciousness that we're transitioning into. So as we shed the physical body, our energy is transitioning. And this transition of energy is kind of, humans vibrate at like a low and slow energy. And when we pass, it's a higher vibration. The frequency is higher and faster and quicker. So it's also an ability to create an omnipresence. So for example, this passing of my friend, I've heard a lot of people saying, oh my God, I felt him in my dreams last night, or I really feel like he's here. And then someone else asked me, well, how could he be in all these places at once? How is that true? So it's an omnipresence. Like, it moves so fast, and you have to remember, it's kind of like quantum physics. Energy never dies, right? So the vibration just shifts. And remember, if it's a hard concept to understand, but if there is no time, there is no time, right? So you can be anywhere. If you have once lived in this plane of earth, you can be here at any time and access it in any way. And then it also goes this way. It's a little confusing. I'm not a quantum physics expert, but just know that you can be anywhere kind of all at once. Another question that I have been getting is, what does it feel like? A lot of people are always worried. Is my past loved one in pain? Are they suffering? The answer is, when you are met with the other side, the only thing you will feel is the most radiant love that you have ever endured or experienced or even imagined. So since when a soul transitions to the other side, all they can feel is love, I also want you to understand that that soul will no longer feel resentment, pain, ego, none of that. The only thing they are vibrating with is love. So the other part of the other side is there's still work to do. So a lot of times people, in past episodes, we've talked about soul contracts and why people come to earth and what is written for you and what you have written for yourself. There are lessons that you need to accomplish. Sometimes those lessons weren't accomplished fully, so there is still work to do on the other side. And we had a guest speak, Debbie, and she said it was Earth School. Well, guess what? There's also school on the other side. And this is a continual learning process. Another thing I have been asked a lot is, are they happy and safe? So again, yes, When your body and soul part, your soul is released from all the earthly pain. There's no more ego, no more pain. They're now just literally living free and free to do anything they want at any time and living within the greatest and highest good of that. Another question, excuse me, is do they send signs? And as I said, a lot of people have been asking, well, I've seen this or I've seen this. Could this be? Yes, these are all signs. And synchronicity is helping to get your attention, kind of like, hey, look at me, look at me. So as I said, like the clock each day could a certain time, it could be in the sign of a butterfly. It could be a cardinal. It could be a repeating number. It could be a car. For me, I always know someone who has passed when I see a certain car. And then all of a sudden I look around and that car's everywhere. There's certain signs that you just have to tune into and sometimes experience firsthand. It could also come through in songs. All of a sudden, you know, maybe it's a song you listen to a past loved one, or there's lyrics that you're just like, wow, that really resonates. Okay, that makes sense. Wow, this might be this person coming through. So if you just are open and willing to receive the signs and the messages, think about what it might be and just be open to receive, because I truly believe there are no coincidences. Everything occurs exactly as it should. And that's a very hard thing to think about when we're grieving, because grieving is all about us, not the person who's passed, right? It's how it affects us on the earthly level, because the other person who has passed no longer is suffering, no longer is worrying, no longer is feeling, you know, shame, guilt, all the human emotions. So I had a beautiful kind of thing come to me over this weekend. I've been doing a lot of really deep grieving, and a kind of message came to me, and it was in the form of visual. So I saw all these lighthouses around me, and I just like I saw all these things, and I realized they were all connected to me, almost like beacons of light and like strings to each of them. So when we have relationships with people, we have something called chords. We have chords of light. So within these chords, at the end of each one were lighthouses. And the lighthouse for my friend I saw was out. And it was like, the light goes out, we no longer have that guiding light here on earth. And this to me was also an indicator, oh, he's definitely my soul family, because it is, I always see my soul families as almost like balls of light. And the thing is, though, that I realized that it's just another form of relationship with that person. It's a new relationship that you get to experience between you and your loved one on the other side. Granted, I know not everyone is a medium. I'm not saying that, but please understand that you can create, as I said, those symbols and signals with them to let them know that you're both communicating. Whether you receive the message back, you putting the message out there and allowing yourself to be open to the possibility can, first of all, help you. And second of all, it is heard. Please understand that your loved ones are hearing you, they are with you, and they're actually here. If you ask them, they're now like part of your spirit team, and you can ask them for guidance. Like, we all have these soul contracts that we're fulfilling and living through. Now, they can't just like rewrite it for you and say, oh, okay, no problem, checked, you did this, but they can place like situations in front of you or people in front of you to kind of aid in this path, right? So I just want you to feel secure that it's just a shift of consciousness. Yes, death is a very scary thing for so many people. It seems like a final, end to everything, but it's not. And I also want you on the other side of grief to understand that the more you work through this, the quicker you're going to feel better and accept that this isn't, unfortunately about the other person. It is about me and who's left on this earth. But if I can feel secure in the fact that they are still around, I'm still able to communicate with them, I'm still able to talk to them, I feel we'd all be much more at peace and less fearing of death and what it means to people. So Dara, if you could just tell me how death or, grieving, whatever you'd like to speak on today.
Well, I have a much different experience with it, I think, than most humans. That goes along with probably a lot of my perspective and experience in life. As you all know, that I was born a psychic medium, so I was born with the ability to see through the veil and to see people that have passed over. And unfortunately, I will just add, sometimes spirits do get trapped on Earth because there's dense energy that hasn't been resolved yet, that they still have to take care of. And sometimes they honestly don't even know because of the way that they passed. It was so quick. So sometimes they can kind of get stuck in this limbo area. That was my first experience with spirit, was with a little girl who was stuck in the limbo, and she became my friend. And I was actually able to help her pass on. So I really had a lot of gratitude for that, because of course, being 3 years old, it was very confusing what was going on, because other people didn't understand what was going on, and they acted like I had imaginary friend. I had a wild imagination, all of these things. But then one day, when she wasn't there anymore to play, I got really sad, and it took about a month for her to come through in a dream and to let me know that she now was passed on. And so I think that is a really important message, is that sometimes if souls are trapped and they're reaching out to you, there might be a reason that they are, and help them work through certain things, see them, honor them, and let them know that it's okay to pass on now and to transition into the other realm, which brings me into my personal other perspective of this subject, which is reincarnation. So I'm a firm believer in reincarnation. I actually do past life regressions work with myself and with my clients. And so what past life regression work is, basically you go into a corridor and you have all these doors, and you can open up any door, and this door leads you to a past life. And each life that you go into will teach you certain things about what you need to learn right now, because your life will show you in this moment of what your soul contract still is, and what you're working through, and why you're connecting to that specific past life at this time. And so for me, I have absolutely no fear of death, because there is really no death to me. The soul is eternal. And I studied a lot of different religions, and it will actually say that in many different religious books, is that the soul is eternal, life is eternal. And so people didn't quite understand what this concept meant, because people are like, well, the body dies. Well, the human flesh may have a time limit, but your soul is eternal. And so being able to connect to both realms makes me kind of like walk in earth a little bit differently. And then I've actually, unfortunately, had several near-death experiences. So I almost died at least 5 times. And one time was very, very close. And so I also have had a touch of being able to see what happens to you, and seeing this light come through, and seeing you literally, like for me, I literally went into a different dimension. So it was like this alternative reality. Like, for example, one of the experiences, I almost drowned. And so when I was drowning, I didn't see the water, I didn't see the darkness, I didn't see the bubbles. What I saw was my spirit guide, Anya, who came to me in the form of a mermaid. And all of a sudden the lake that I was in turned into this really amazing deep ocean. And Anya swooped me up, and she brought me, like I saw her carry me up. And the next thing I know, like water's coming out of my mouth, and there's people all around me. And so it's very different, I think, for absolutely everybody, but there definitely is a bright light. I don't really necessarily believe in the concept of heaven and hell, because I believe this concept was created to put the fear in people to help control them to do good here on earth. I do not believe that our loved ones that are bad go to hell. I believe that they go to, from everything that they've told me, they're going to school. They have stuff that they need to deal with. They still have karma that they need to deal with. I've been personally visited by some of my abusers who now in their state of consciousness feel so guilty and they cannot believe what they did. And so they really felt the need that they had to connect with me and contact me and say sorry. And, you know, I was able to say, look, I forgave you a long time ago because I needed to heal for myself, but hold that. So give them the forgiveness that they need, let them move on. They're in a higher state of consciousness, a different realm, like Amy was speaking, and it's really about the lesson. So if we can focus on the moments that we were blessed to share with that loved one, and in every single day, stop taking that for granted. Like, be present with your loved ones, be there for them, listen to them. Don't just talk all about me. Like, hold space for them and really vibe out in this moment of love and enjoyment, because when you are taking your last breath, I promise you, you will not care about that Prada shoe that you had to have, or that new car that you couldn't wait and you saved and you worked literally 10 years with no vacation to buy. You're not going to care about any of that. You're going to care about, thank God I took a week off from that work to go spend time with my family. Thank God I was able to bring so much joy and smiles to those I love and plant so many seeds of peace on earth. So really make every day count, because you never do know when it's your last. So Amy, what about you? I mean, I know that you did share some about your story. Was there anything you wanted to add?
No, I totally agree that it's just having to be present. So you really, you know, it sounds like cheesy, whatever, you don't want to live with regrets, but it's so true. And the more present we are, and also the one thing I do just briefly want to speak to is just really making sure that if you are feeling unsettled, if you aren't feeling good, if you feel like something is coming up, listen, there are so many people around to love and support you. And regardless of what you may feel, what you may think, there is always a solution. There is always a way to cope. There is always someone to turn to. So I just wanted to speak on that just real quickly, just to say, you know, we all struggle. Everyone struggles. A lot of us have dealt with different mental health things throughout our lives, but the deal is you can get help. And the deal is you can recover. And that's kind of, you know, what we've continued to show people, like there's so many ways to heal. And listen, everyone has had their somethings, but we've all found ways out of it, you know? So I just want to go in with our Brookelin and just ask her, because she does have a very cool little path that I'd like her to share with us. So Brookelin, how did your path lead you right here to this moment?
First of all, just thank you for having me here with you, lovely ladies. It's just such a pleasure.
Oh, we love you so much.
To be connected to you guys. I mean, from a very young age, I kind of started, like, I noticed myself kind of praying or doing, you know, kind of like devotional type of things in my own way from a very young age, feeling very connected to nature. And then there was like this amazing crystal store by where I grew up. And so super young, I just started like exploring. And then as I got older, just kind of really diving into different practices to help ground my energy, to also help, you know, push any suppressed feelings that I was holding from the past and just kind of start to work on those things. And then just skipping to now where I am at this moment, in the beginning of this year, really, I found out on January 4th that my father had stage 4 stomach cancer, and that there was really no treatment that could help his situation. His case was put at Johns Hopkins in front of like the top doctors, and they were like, unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do except for just love him and love up on him. And he lives on the East Coast, and I'm out here in Colorado. So I immediately drove there with my sister. She lives in Chicago, and we got there right away. And I basically, my intention while I was there was to hold his hand throughout the entire process. And they had given him 3 months to 4 months to live. They even said it could be longer, but that's around the timing of it. And it all started when he, in December, was kind of just feeling on his right and left side of his body that he felt like it was hard to breathe. He would do little things like walk from his bedroom to the office, which was like not even, 10 feet away, and be out of breath, which is very unlike him, because he's a go-getter. He has his own business. He's always washing his cars and doing all these things that he loves to do. And all of a sudden this came on. And so he had gotten all these different tests done in December, and no one was really kind of following through. And his body started filling up with fluid. And at one point they removed 5 liters of fluid, which is a little over 10 pounds, which is crazy. And at that point, they still didn't know what was going on. So anyway, long story short, as I said, when they found out it was cancer, and we showed up, my sister and I got about maybe like a week with him where he was present and still able to get up and go to the bathroom and go to his office. And he was lucky enough throughout his whole process to stay at home. He was at home, and hospice would come to the house and give him what he needed, would drain him. And actually none of the pain meds that he was on, and he wasn't on much medicine, thankfully, were helping him. Like nothing was really helping, unfortunately. And as time went on, he just became bedridden, and then slowly just started to dwindle down from there. And so I got there on January 25th, and on February 25th is when he took his last breath. And it was crazy because it went so quickly. And it was really hard to watch, to be there, but I wouldn't take any of it back because, like you both mentioned, I got to be there. My job supported me while I was there. I had all this support, including you ladies around me from all over. And I just had to and got to lean into the support around me. And there was a lot of divine alignment happening during this process, just like the timing of everything. Of course, I want him to still be here. And with every breath, I miss him so deeply. But I wouldn't take any of it back as far as how I handled it and how I got there and what we all did. So I just so grateful for the support that I had during this time. And I just can't even believe it happened. I mean, I was so present when it was happening, but at the same time, I felt like I was in this other reality. And so it was this weird play between being present and being grounded in the situation, but then feeling like, is this really happening? So it's really kind of hard to put into words. And it felt like I was in this whirlwind, and then all of a sudden I got dropped back in Colorado after being there. So tomorrow it'll be a month since he took his last breath. So it's just kind of like this interesting process that I'm swimming through. And I know I'm not alone because many people out there are going through this. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of taking it day by day and moment by moment. But I just can't even, I still am kind of in shock about it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being so vulnerable and sharing not only your story, but a little bit about his beautiful life, because focusing on that celebration of the amazing human and father that he was brings his soul so much gratitude and joy. And now that it has been about a month since he did take his last breath, what has grief taught you through processing through all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of learning how to become friends with grief. I feel like grief she's quite tricky, and she's also very playful in this weird way, and she's sneaky as well. So I would describe grief as in waves. I can be, doing work and then come out of work and then remember, like, this is the time where my dad would always have this magical alignment and call me at the perfect time, and that'll hit me, right? And that'll break me down for a moment, and just allowing myself to go through and be in it rather than trying to change it. Or I can be like, the other day, it snowed really hard here, and my man was outside shoveling, and he came back inside, and I was massaging his shoulders, and all of a sudden I was reminded of when, during my dad's last days, when we would try to change his shirt, and he was all bones at that point, but he was so heavy. When he became bones, he was just like, to the ground, and so it would take two of us and his effort too, to change his shirt. I mean, we take this stuff for granted. Like, we just put our shirt on, we brush our teeth, we do all these things. And yet when we come to, if and when we do come to this point, right, and it happens in that way where you're dwindling down or you're bedridden, and someone has to do these normal activities for you, right? I was reminded of how hard it was to change a shirt, and I just broke down, right? So it's like it like seeps in. And so it's teaching me how to be gentle with myself, how to accept what is, and that it's also normal, right? To allow the tears to come and not apologize for them.
And not let them suppress into future trauma.
Exactly.
You're allowing yourself to feel it, which is really important. Mm-hmm. And if someone that is going through grief, hold space for them. They need you, even though, like I said, I may grieve different than Amy or Brooklyn. But that doesn't mean that I don't hold space for them in what they need through their grieving. So we have to just remember that aspect too. So
absolutely.
Definitely. And I feel like, it's so important, as, Brooklyn brought up, like, to go through all the feels and just feel them all, and just really, because if you suppress it, like, you're just going to keep going up here, and it's eventually you're going to fall into it. So it's almost like you may as well do it the best way that you know how, and how, I feel like when you go through this process, there's no other way to land but differently, right? So how has it kind of given you a new view or perspective on life and currently living through it?
Right. And you both kind of said it earlier, for sure. Like, when my dad, when he found out he was sick, he was also very open about everything. Like, what was interesting is he had the opportunity to close down some business accounts and some financial matters and get rid of his stuff. And it's like what you guys said earlier, the stuff does not matter whatsoever. And when he was still able to get into his office, and I was helping him at his home office, and I was helping him clean up some stuff, he found a blank Christmas card, and he was like, well, I'll be dead by Christmas, so I can shred this. So he was very like, this is aware. You're right, the awareness was there. And so what I've learned through this is that, like, none of the stuff matters, right? Like, we love having stuff and we like having collections of things. Like he was really big into different car stuff. He had a huge Marilyn Monroe wine bottle collection, an art collection. Like
I love that.
I know, that was his thing. And at the end though, he was asking the question like, why do I need this stuff? And we're like, well, Dad, it's because you have a passion for it. You're a collector of it. And I understand that. That's like my man likes collecting records. I like collecting, you know, different, we all have our things, but in the end, it's love. It's who you love and what the love that you are. What are how are you showing up, right? That's what matters in the end, is like who we're being and how we are and our connection to other people, right? And that's even something that he said. So him and I love to write poems, and he would always write poems for different events, and so would I. And I really didn't know that he'd like to do that until maybe later, where I was like, oh, now I know where I get it from. And so I said to him when he got sick, and I was on the phone, I was still out here in Colorado, I said, you know, Dad, I'm going to be the one reading the poem at your funeral. And he goes, I would love to write one together. So what happened?
Oh my God, it's everywhere.
I know.
Wow.
So on February 6th, he told me everything that he wanted to say, and then I took it and put it in poem form. So I just wanted to read a little bit of it because it applies to what we're talking about this moment. So it says, my time has come. Man, have I had so much fun. I've watched my friends and relatives pass away and never really thought about the meaning of life from day to day. It's not the possessions we own or how much money we've made. It's not even about how successful we are or how much we get paid. I've come to realize life's all about family and friends. That's truly what is essential when it comes to the end. So it's just like, you know, none of the stuff matters. And also for me, one thing that I've always been focusing on is like, do not wait. Don't wait to do anything. And this concept of when somebody passes away and people all of a sudden, like you guys said, when someone's sick, all of a sudden people start to show up and then they show up at their funeral. But why aren't we showing up when the person is alive? And so that is a huge question I've always had. And it's helped me also on how I live my life. And him and I talked about that as well. He was like, it's just so interesting. All of a sudden, all these people have these parallels of their family and different families being sick or experiencing cancer. And then they show up in your life, right? When you're at the end of your life. And he thought that that was really interesting as well. So, yeah.
That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. It is such a powerful message, and I'm sorry for getting emotional, but it really is, because it's something that I try to infuse in all of my relationships and friendships and with everybody. And I have to be honest, I don't always receive it back. So it's something that I've been crying for quite some time. I left New York and gave up all my possessions. And when I did that, I felt more free and connected to spirit than ever. And I wanted so much for everyone to understand what that felt like. And then to go backpack, it's like living in the moment, and you meet every person. And for that moment, you're with that person, whoever they might be from wherever in the world they might be, but you share a moment, and that moment is written on your soul forever. It's not just this life. It's not even when you go into the other realm, but literally when you come back into the next life, you're going to still have those moments written on your soul. And that's when you meet people in this life that you're like, I don't know why, but I love you. Like, I feel like you're my sister. I feel like you're my family, and it affects you in a different way. And it's because in a past life, you had a moment that you shared, or maybe multiple moments, that those moments were written on your heart, and those moments were written in your soul, and they will forever follow you. So I'm just so sorry. It's just very an intense topic. And so being that were with Brooklyn. When I first met her, like I said, she literally made my heart explode. And so rainbows have always been incredibly powerful to me ever since I was born. I've had rainbow birthdays, rainbow clothes, rainbow pajamas, and I didn't really know what the correlation was until I was in Peru and I actually was named Rainbow Light in Quechuan by a shaman. And then when I met Brooklyn, she's literally like a rainbow explosion. She's so beautiful and she embodies the beauty of the rainbow in every way. And then I found out it's actually her symbol and sign as well. And in talking to her more, I really feel that we are a part of the Rainbow Light Worker tribe. And so I really would, you know, we talked about signs and things like that as well. And signs can be in everywhere. So Brooklyn, like, let them know, how do rainbows help you to connect, and what is the symbolic nature of rainbows, and how can signs and things that people do connect with, like how can they utilize that to connect to themselves and to the other realm?
Great question. I love it. And also, like, through this process, I just want to say, like, I've recognized and realized that we don't need to apologize for our tears, and that's been a huge lesson as well, right? It's like, we just, because I noticed myself doing it and I was like, you know what?
I do it all the time.
Right. And I catching myself, right? So I just wanted to put that out there because it's another lesson that's been coming through, because just like you, I was doing that and I was like, you know what? No, that, right? Because we get to feel what's coming through and not be sorry about it. So I just honor you, and I honor you both. With the rainbows, so it's, I'll condense the story. I used to have a beautiful husky named Blue, and when I used to live mostly in LA, and when I moved from LA to Colorado in 2017, unfortunately, I found out that Blue never fully formed his kidneys. And so he was slowly dwindling because he didn't have full kidneys, and he was only 6 years young, and he was my everything. I had had him since he was 3 months old. And in August of 2017, so I moved to Colorado in February 2017. By August, Blue's health was starting to decline, and I was having to give him sub-Q fluids, like an IV fluid type of thing, twice a day. And but my dad, he was on the East Coast and I was out in Colorado. He was so connected to Blue, like they had this deep intertwinement, unspoken connection. And my dad was like, we will do whatever it takes to keep this dog happy and alive. So a few days before Blue's passing, I just kind of let him do whatever. Like, I let him come on the couch when I normally wouldn't. And I was like, whatever he wants, like he can be wherever he wants. I just want to, like you guys said, I want to spend and soak up so much and cherish the time that I have left with him. I was petting him, and every single strand of his hair was coming up in rainbow iridescent. So every strand of his hair. So I would be petting him and it was like rainbows. Just, it's hard to describe, and it's probably going to sound crazy to some of you, but that's what was happening. So then he was getting so bad that it was time to actually put him down. So I put him down on August 28th, not knowing this, and I post about it. And someone told me that August 28th is Rainbow Bridge Remembrance Day. When this happened, I would start to see rainbows everywhere. And I'm not just talking about real rainbows, but I would see all of a sudden on my kitchen floor these vivid rainbows. And I would move a crystal that it could be coming from, and I would move it and it would still be there. And that was happening all the time. And I would see real rainbows, and I would see rainbow things, right? It was just kind of happening. And it was like, there's Blue, Blue's still with me. And it was the most incredible, magical gift and feeling. It let me know that everything's okay. We are protected. I am protected. Take a deep breath, ground your energy, right? with destruction comes that grace, comes that beauty, and to continue to stand in my own feet and trust the process and that I'm not alone. Cut to where I am now, and this is still happening in my life, right? When my dad passed, before he passed, he said to me, when I go to heaven, all I want to do is be with Blue again. That's all I want. I want to be with Blue again. And he said, when I pass and I get there, I want Blue to greet me and show me around so we can be together again. When we went after my dad's funeral, we went to clean up some stuff at the house. And I walk in and I'm cleaning up some stuff, and all of a sudden on the couch is this, I have a picture and a video of it. That's how vivid it is. This perfect circle rainbow. I look behind me. It's coming from the peephole of the front door. Okay. What? I block out the peephole. It goes completely away. So his girlfriend of 17 years that he was living with, I showed her, and now it's been almost a month. She told me yesterday, almost every day, that rainbow is on the couch, and she touches it and she cries. So talk about signs. His name Maynard, and I always called him May, so I'm calling that magic, but it's magic. It's him, right? It's him letting us know, I'm okay, I'm here, I'm walking up the rainbow with Blue, and I got this. Talk about other signs. The day he was cremated and we were having his funeral, the day that happened, it was very overcast and windy in Maryland. And he wanted his ashes in a cookie jar, a car cookie jar. That's what he wanted, because he had this car cookie jar collection with Elvis and Marilyn Monroe and these different ones. He wanted to be in this red Corvette cookie jar, or whatever the car was. I don't remember the car. My sister and I went to lower and put his ashes. He wanted to be in the ground. So we put him in the ground. As soon as we put him and put that thing on the ground, the sun peeped open for not even 5 seconds. When we put it down, look up, done, boom, back to overcast. So for me, the signs are really everything. It's not something that you make happen in my book, right? Or try to make happen. It's things like you guys said that you are open to, and broadening your awareness to these things can help, I think, and can support us in the things when we're feeling really down or we've lost our purpose. It's things like that that always allow me to tap back in and just, again, trust the process.
Oh, Brookelin, that's unbelievable. And just thank you so much for sharing all of that. I mean, the poem to the signs to and we had met you beforehand and talked about all of our signs with rainbows and things like that before all this happened. And I was so curious to hear, I knew he would kind of come through to you, and just was wondering what those signs look like for you. So Brookelin, thank you beyond words and beyond measure. It's so funny. As I said, nothing happens by coincidence. She was supposed to be one of our first guests, and it just happened in this order. You know what I mean? And it's just such a blessing to have you. It's, as Dara said, we just all feel very divinely connected through this rainbow connection, if you will. I know that's a song too, but it's beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing that absolutely touching and beautiful perspective on grieving and on life after death, really, and just understanding that there is that rainbow bridge connection and there are signs all around us. You just, as you said, have to be open to it. So if you would just stick around a little bit longer, please, those of you, get out your journals and your pen. And how funny is this? Girl, this is my manifesting journal. Could you die? Could you die?
My God.
Everywhere.
That's insane.
So listen, you know, and something like I'm getting the signal to tell you, like, there are things, this is how synchronicity happens. Okay, I've had this journal and I've been showing this journal every week, but there's a reason for certain things and certain things to be shown. And sometimes you don't realize what the reason is until it happens.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And today is your 13th episode, and I'm born on the 13, and it's my lucky number.
Oh.
Also with your Marilyn Monroe journal, when my dad, my sister was with my dad when he took his last breath, and she said to him, "Dad, it's okay to go. Marilyn Monroe is up there waiting to dance and sway with you."
And the weirdest thing just happened on my computer the minute you said that. I'm looking at a document and it went right up to the number 13. Hand to God. Hand to God. Like wild. I was like, oh, what happened?
I love it. Oh, incredible.
Wow. So give me a second while I get back to where I'm supposed to be. Oh my goodness.
Well, and I'll just say, while she gets back, I just want to also let people know, signs are not always visual. So sometimes you may smell a particular smell that smells like your mother's cooking or somebody's fragrance, or you may hear a song that was someone else's. Like my grandmother's favorite song was Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And that was like my childhood song. My mom would sing it to me every single night because my grandmother sang it to my mom. So when we were arriving to my grandmother's funeral, on the radio, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, like we're literally driving up to the place where we're going to lay her in the ground. She played a Somewhere Over the Rainbow, of course, to make us all like lose it. Yeah. But we had the windows down so everybody heard it. And literally she wanted everybody to know that she was there, of course. So it's not always visual. It can be sound, it can be smell, it can be feel, like a touch. All of a sudden you might feel, you know, the chills, and exactly, that's all signs. Absolutely. So take them in any way that they're given. Spirit has to use a lot of energy and work really, really, really hard to send you those signs because they no longer have a body. So if you can imagine how much work they're putting in just to let you know that they're still here and they're still supporting you and loving you and they will never leave you. Like, give them a break. Give them some love back. Be like, I see your sign. I see how hard you're working and I'm grateful for it. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I have a very similar with the song Dust in the Wind with a past loved one. And it always comes up, and it came up for their funeral, everything. So it's just so beautiful. Mm-hmm. So I'd like you today, as you are thinking about this, listen, not everyone has experienced death, but we have all experienced grief of some sort. And I just want you to think about today, how has grief affected you? And where has it kind of led you along that path? I love that Brooklyn said she's a little bit tricky, because boy, is she ever, you know, she comes in waves. She could be like, oh, I'm sunshine, rainbows. Then in 3 seconds later, you're in hysteria, and you have to meet yourself where you're at that very moment. Can't judge yourself. And as we said, don't apologize for it. You should be embracing that you're actually going through the motions and not suppressing it, right? Another thing that we've really spoken on today is how can you root yourself in the present? We all take for granted all that's around us. We get caught up in the things, in the what, in the who am I, in the this, in the ego. And instead, get caught up in love, get caught up in those relationships and make them count. Call that person you haven't talked to that you love so much and you're like, oh, I just have lost touch. Gain touch, okay? Then I want you to think about, as we've also been speaking on all these beautiful signs, right? What signs, whether you're open, whether you have seen them, whether you haven't, maybe you can tune in now. What signs have you noticed from spirit or past loved ones? And talk about what those are. Or maybe if you haven't received them and would like to, just start thinking of how you'll be open to them and maybe what that would look like for certain people or certain loved ones that have passed, the things that may come through. So again, oh my goodness, thank you so much, Brookelin. I am just so happy that it came full circle like this and that we were able to honor and support you through this and also highlight, the beauty of all processes of life, of living, of grieving, of dying, and communicating with the other side and understanding that our souls are energy that never ends and it's just for us to access. So Brookelin, I would like people to be able to connect with you. So where can they find you online or social media? Tell us about it, honey.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much. I have a website and it's called Breathe with Brookelin. My name is spelled a little bit differently than the city. It's Brookelin. And you can also, great place to find me is on Instagram, and it's also Breathe with Brookelin. So feel free to connect with me deeper there. And again, just thank you both so much for having me here with you during this, heavy time, and also finding the lightness within the heavy time. And I just am super grateful for you Rainbow Sisters in my life, and just honored to know and adore you both and support what you're putting out into the world. So thanks again.
Thank you, Brookelin.
Thank you so much for sharing everything. You've been so magic. And thank you for being in our tribe, because you are such a ray of light. Beyond this, she really is incredibly talented. She not only is an instructor, but she actually creates the coursework. So reach out to her if you also are looking for getting your life in alignment physically and spiritually, because she does do Zoom chats as well. So a remarkable soul to know. Thank you so much. And Amy, please let everyone know where they can find you.
Yes, you can find me on amydescola.com and Amy Descola Medium on Facebook and Instagram. And you can find us at thesoultribes.com. And please, please, please like and subscribe to YouTube. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook under The Soul Tribes. Like, comment, share it, tell everyone you can. And please, we'd love if you'd share it to social media too. And Miss Dara, where can we find you, Angel Face?
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Dara Jewett, DARAJEWETT. And my website, I have a couple websites, they're all in the link there, so you can feel free to reach out with me there. And also, I will just say, as Amy has said, been getting so many questions lately about soul contracts and what happens after death and how can I connect with my loved ones. So if you guys really do have questions and you need guidance, please, 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 you don't have to do this alone. Reach out to us. Even if you just have to have a question, don't worry. I don't charge to answer questions. Like, I want to be there for you. I want to support you, as does Amy. So just please let us love you. Let us support you. Reach out to us, connect with us, and go out there and live the best day ever with those that you love today, because today is what matters.
It is. So again, thank you, ladies. It's been an honor and a pleasure. And thank you to our audience for really tuning into your heart and knowing that it's a safe place and that no question is taboo. And there are things that are tough. Okay. So everyone have a wonderful, wonderful week and take care of yourselves. And most importantly, reach out to those you love. Okay. Take care. Bye.